he fell asleep on the phone with Claressa, right? And
that's that good boo loving.
Yeah, like he fell asleep, but she was still talking, right? And so when she heard Remy's voice, she hung up. And so the phone was still open, so she just must have started going through text messages, and this is what she found.
Dollar deal. I'm not bragging, but well, basically, Claressa found herself, man, in a position where she was in a bidding war because her contract ended.
Okay.
With the previous entity that she was signed to.
Okay.
So I want to say this to you and make it clear. Every boxing entity made offers to her.
Wow.
From the biggest to the smallest. I literally sat in these meetings with her. And my team, I see what we've been doing. We put a lot of asses in seats with these concerts. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at it, I'm like, damn.
Oh, so that was
Yeah. Like, yo,
game in boxing, people don't.
Yo, bro, I'm brainstorming. But anyway, I'm looking at how we able to put asses in seats, and I'm looking at what she doing as a fighter. I'm like, yo, if we come together, it'd be crazy. So her last fight, which was in Detroit, we came together and we sold that motherfucker out, bro.
Don't worry about people talking about, oh, the look, the endorsements, the sponsorships. I kept it very simple. I said, as long as I win, they're going to keep talking. I beat this girl, I beat that girl, I get this title. You know, I tell this girl I'm gonna knock her out, and then we fight and I knock her out. Chirp. So I just told myself, just win.
Now, when are you knocking Remy Ma out? Y'all know I had to bring that up, okay? Because the girls was tussling over the internet. I didn't know if she was gonna get knocked out. I was scared.
The internet is not a real place to be. Like, what?
Oh my God.
What's going on? I'm like, I want to promote the movie. What is this?
You said earlier some things Pap need to handle.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's the elephant in the room. I don't have to say it.
Oh,
yeah, it's the elephant in the room. Like, but that takes time, and like I said, that's not my place to speak on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'll get handled. I just know that from my perspective, I'm with him every day, and when I'm not with him, we're on the phone every day, and we're talking, and we're FaceTiming, and you know, we love each other. So that's just kind of what it is.
So the all is already given, is what she's saying.
The video doesn't open with shouting. It doesn't open with accusations. It opens with silence. Claressa Shields sits frozen, shoulders tense, eyes glassy but locked in, like someone holding themselves together through pure willpower. There's a pause before she talks, a long pause, the kind that lets you know this wasn't rehearsed, this wasn't content, this was something that finally hurt too much to carry by herself. Her breathing stays measured, but her voice cracks just enough to expose it. Not weakness, emotion, real emotion. She takes her time. She doesn't jump straight into names. She starts with loyalty, with trust, with believing people who smiled in her face and called her family, the kind of people you never expect to hurt you because they were never supposed to be strangers. That's when the energy shifts, because now the pain isn't abstract anymore. It's personal. As the clip spreads online, people lean in closer. Fans catch her hands trembling slightly as she wipes her face. They notice how she swallows between sentences, like she's forcing something heavy back down. This isn't anger. This isn't theatrics. This is disappointment, the kind that cuts deeper than betrayal ever could. And suddenly, celebrity drama stops feeling entertaining. It feels uncomfortable. Then she says it, not loud, not furious, just clear. She trusted them. Names that once represented unity, respect, and strength now hang unfinished in the air. Claressa doesn't yell accusations. She doesn't have to. The hurt in her voice does all the talking. She explains how she felt included until she wasn't, how promises were made and then quietly abandoned. Loyalty was demanded from her, but she never returned the same way. The internet reacts instantly. Clips spread with captions full of disbelief. Fans replay the exact moment her voice breaks. Comment sections are split between shock and anger. Some feel protective, others feel betrayed by her. Because this isn't just an athlete venting personal pain. This is someone realizing in real time that the people she defended may have never been on her side at all. What makes it hit even harder is the realization settling in everywhere at once. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't miscommunication. This was a pattern. Claressa pauses again, fighting back tears, and in that silence, everything becomes clear. She isn't crying because she's weak. She's crying because she believed, because she stood 10 toes down for people who ultimately let her stand alone. By the time the video ends, one truth sits heavily on everyone watching. They didn't just disappoint her, they played her. But before the tears, before the exposure, before the internet chose sides, there was respect. Real respect is built quietly over time. Claressa Shields wasn't admired just for championships. She was respected for discipline, for loyalty, for never forcing relationships in an industry built on performance. She spoke openly about believing in community, in mentorship, in standing with the people who showed her love from day one. That belief guided how she moved, who she trusted, and who she defended, sometimes louder than she probably should have. That's where she planted her flag. Across from her, in that same cultural space, were people viewed as symbols, not just individuals. Symbols of loyalty, of unity, of consistency. A partnership people believed in because it looked solid, unbreakable, real. Especially to women who saw strength mirrored in one journey and steadiness reflected in the other. So when Claressa stepped into that orbit, it didn't feel transactional. It felt mutual. Photos, public support, shared spaces. Nothing flashy, nothing forced, just an alignment that suggested real respect behind closed doors. Claressa spoke highly of them. She defended them when criticism popped up. No hesitation. And that mattered. In hip-hop culture, public loyalty is currency, and she spent hers without blinking. But relationships built under bright lights often hide their weakest cracks in the shadows. Behind the scenes, expectations quietly formed. Promises were implied, sometimes spoken. Sometimes it's just assumed. Claressa believed she was protected, not just publicly backed, but privately considered. That belief shaped her decisions. How much access did she give? How much trust she extended? How much benefit of the doubt she kept offering? What she didn't see was how uneven the exchange had become. Because while she was showing up consistently, something else was happening. Subtle shifts, delayed replies, changed energy. Nothing loud enough to call out, nothing obvious enough to accuse, just enough to feel off. And when you truly respect people, you ignore that feeling longer than you should. That's the dangerous part. The foundation looked strong, the image stayed clean, the silence kept everything stable, and for a while it worked. Until it didn't. Until Claressa realized loyalty given isn't always loyalty returned, especially when power dynamics quietly change. That realization didn't hit overnight, it built slowly. At first, nothing felt wrong. There were still public smiles, still acknowledgments, still surface-level signs of unity that kept everything looking intact from the outside. But underneath that surface, Claressa felt the shift. Not all at once, just enough to notice. Messages took longer to get answered. Plans felt less solid. Conversations that once flowed naturally started ending early, like something important was being avoided. And she didn't confront it, not right away.
When respect is genuine, you give people the benefit of the doubt. You assume they're busy. You tell yourself the timing is off. You convince yourself you're overthinking it. In hip-hop culture especially, everything moves fast, schedules collide, and misunderstandings are easy to excuse. That's the space Claressa lived in for a long time. She chose patience instead of suspicion, grace instead of questioning. But patience isn't endless, and eventually patterns start to form. Small moments began stacking up, invitations that never arrived, decisions she assumed she'd be part of getting handled quietly without her, public praise that felt broad and impersonal instead of intentional. And the most unsettling part wasn't what was said, but what was missing, watching loud support show up for others while her presence slowly faded into the background. That's when confusion settled in. Not jealousy, not anger, just the uncomfortable feeling that something had shifted. She replayed conversations in her mind, trying to pinpoint where the energy changed. She thought about the loyalty she'd shown without hesitation, the times she spoke up when staying quiet would have been easier, the moments she defended people who weren't even in the room. Loyalty like that usually comes back around. This time, it didn't. Then came the moment that made denial impossible. Not a fight, not a public disagreement, just exclusion. Something she fully expected to be part of moved forward without her knowledge. She didn't hear it directly. She found out the same way fans do, in fragments, through whispers online. That hurt more than any insult ever could, because exclusion doesn't make noise, it confirms what you've been trying not to see. Still, Claressa didn't react publicly. She sat with it. She tried to rationalize it. She reached out privately, quietly, the way adults do when they want clarity instead of chaos. The response wasn't hostile, it was worse. It was distant, polite, short, non-committal. And that distance said everything. As days passed, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Support that once felt authentic now felt conditional. Access that once felt mutual now felt controlled. The more she noticed it, the harder it became to unsee. Most celebrity drama starts loud. This didn't. It grew in silence, the most dangerous place for betrayal to take shape. By the time Claressa fully understood what was happening, the emotional math was clear. She had shown up when it mattered. She had been loyal when it counted. And somewhere along the way, that loyalty stopped being returned. There was no explosion at the end of this timeline, just a realization. And once realization hits, comfort disappears forever. The silence lasted longer than people expected, long enough for assumptions to form, long enough for the internet to move on. But silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. Sometimes it means everything is being processed at once, privately, painfully, without an audience. Claressa didn't rush to speak. She sat with the disappointment, the weight, the understanding that unbalanced loyalty turns into a burden. She revisited moments that once felt genuine and now felt transactional. And once you see that shift clearly, you can never look at those relationships the same way again. Support that once felt mutual started feeling strategic, and slowly something shifted inside her. Not anger, but clarity. That clarity made the next moment land with real weight. When she finally spoke, it wasn't wrapped in theatrics or shade. It was controlled, emotional, and honest. Her voice didn't rise, it wavered, steady enough to convey truth. She talked about betrayal without embellishment, about being embraced publicly but dismissed privately, about being included until she wasn't. The words weren't sharp, but they cut, and fans felt it immediately. This wasn't gossip, this was testimony.
As the clip circulated, people noticed what she shared and what she left unsaid. No exaggeration, no wild accusations, just experiences. How access changed, how communication cooled, how decisions moved forward without her. Those details mattered because they felt lived in, authentic. The exposure wasn't a single bombshell, it was a pattern coming into focus. Viewers connected the dots retroactively. Old moments now looked different. Compliments that once felt warm now felt generic. Silence that once felt respectful now reads as convenient. The internet didn't need receipts. Behavior aligned on its own. And once it did, the story reframed itself. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a quiet removal. The tension deepened not because anyone responded loudly, but because they didn't respond at all. No clarification, no denial, no attempt to smooth things over. That absence became its own statement. In a culture where narratives are defended aggressively, restraint reads differently. It reads like disengagement, like distance, like someone choosing not to reopen what they consider closed. But for Claressa, it wasn't closed, it was unresolved. And unresolved things demand attention. Comments poured in as people recognized the experience instantly, being valued until you're no longer useful, welcomed until the room fills up, loyal until loyalty becomes inconvenient. The story stopped being just hers, it became familiar. By the end, the truth was clear. This wasn't one isolated moment, it was being played slowly, quietly, convincingly. Once that truth is spoken, it can't be taken back. The twist didn't come from a new statement, it came from hindsight. As Claressa's words settled, fans stopped focusing on raw emotion and started seeing alignment. Timelines were rewatched, old interviews felt different. Praise that once sounded supportive now felt vague.
Silence now read as a strategy. The internet didn't rush this, it studied it, and in that study, something unsettling took shape. This wasn't chaos, it was choreography. Claressa showed up when it mattered. She defended, amplified, and stood firm when neutrality would have been easier. That pattern was easy to trace. What became impossible to ignore was the absence on the other side, the gaps where support should have existed but didn't. Perspective flipped. The story was never about fallout, it was about recognition. It was about access, and access, once granted, changes the power dynamic completely. Then came the realization that hit hardest. Claressa wasn't pushed out, she was used, welcomed when her presence added value, celebrated when her voice helped the narrative, quietly sidelined when she no longer fit the plan. That reframed everything. The delays, the distance, the polite replies that went nowhere. Her tears didn't read as weakness, they read as clarity. The moment became bigger than personalities, bigger than egos, bigger than headlines. It became about how people are treated once their usefulness expires. In hip-hop culture, loyalty is praised publicly, but negotiated privately. That contradiction is where this story lives. Claressa stopped being seen as emotional. She was seen as honest. Others weren't accused loudly, they were questioned quietly, and quiet questions linger longer than loud accusations. The exposure wasn't forced, it came through contrast. One voice emotional but consistent, others composed but distant. That imbalance told the story better than any receipt ever could. This wasn't a misunderstanding spiraling, it was a dynamic finally named.
The aftermath didn't come with press runs or statements. It came in energy. Claressa moved forward differently, not softer, not harder, clearer. She spoke less, explained less, and chose intention over access. The tears didn't turn into walkbacks, they turned into distance, and distance is a decision. Support gathered quietly around her. Messages, shared experiences, recognition, the kind that doesn't trend but lasts. Fans stopped picking sides and started recognizing patterns. On the other side, silence remained. No attempts to reset the narrative, no effort to reclaim control, and that silence shaped perception more than any denial ever could. People didn't rush to condemn, they remembered. They remembered who spoke when it mattered and who didn't. In culture, memory is reputation, and reputation moves slowly than headlines. The impact showed up subtly. Conversations changed. Loyalty became something people questioned instead of assuming. Unity was examined, not celebrated automatically. Claressa's moment became a reference point, not a scandal, a lesson. Trust isn't proven in public moments alone. It's proven when cameras aren't rolling and benefits aren't immediate. So now, the question isn't who's right or wrong, it's what loyalty really means. Is it showing up when it's convenient, or standing firm when it stops benefiting you? Public praise or private consistency? Claressa's story landed because it didn't come wrapped in theatrics, it came wrapped in recognition. Too many watching have lived some version of this, trusted deeply, showed up fully, realized too late the exchange was never equal. That realization doesn't make you bitter, it makes you selective, and that's the real takeaway. When someone finally speaks from clarity instead of anger, do we listen or wait for chaos to entertain us? Some exposures don't need explosions, they just need honesty. So ask yourself, if you were in her position, would you have stayed silent to keep the peace or spoken once to protect your truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story made you rethink how loyalty works in public spaces, hit like and subscribe.